Hi there everyone, my name's Wayne, I'm the Armchair Red and welcome to my channel. On today's episode of the Armchair Prediction Challenge, we'll be looking at game week 28. And for those of you that don't know, every week I invite a member of the Armchair community to submit their predictions, showing results and scorelines, and you go up against me to see who has the best footballing knowledge. For game week 28, we have a little bit of a twist, but we'll get to that a bit later. It's only right that we go back and see what happened in game week 27. For those of you that don't know, I took on Jethro Chreiling. Sorry, I always struggle pronouncing his name. And it was a very high scoring round. Ultimately, at the end of the day, unfortunately, it looks like I fell short again. That is 2 weeks in a row. Jethro scored 9 points for game week 27. I scored 8 points. So Jethro had 8 correct results and 1 correct scoreline. I had 7 correct results and 1 correct scoreline. So the total tally for the Armchair Challenge at the moment is Armchair Community 20 points, Armchair Red 17. So my 2 consecutive losses have left me 3 points to make up. So going into the challenge, I was very confident that I would be able to take on all comers, but that is 2 weeks in a row now that I've fallen short. So a lot like Liverpool after the Arsenal game, I've got a lot of retribution to make up for. So Lucian Williams took care of me 2 weeks ago. Jethro just took care of me now. So let's get to the little twist I was referring to for game week 28. So looking back at the first prediction challenge we had, which was the first ever subscriber to my channel, Clyde Abrams, I ended up winning that round. Coincidentally, it's the only round I've won so far. But Clyde reached out to me and said, "Hey Wayne, you know what? Everyone else seems to be beating you. He pretty much wants another crack." So welcome Clyde. Game week 28, I'm going to look at your predictions again. Let's see if you can go 1-1 with me or whether I get to make up some of these 3 points that I'm behind. So let's get into the games this week. So the first game is Man United Everton. So Clyde's given me a 2-1 scoreline to Man United. So I think from my point of view, I agree with the result in this game. I think Man United are going to win. I know they're without Rasmus Højlund. But Everton are a bit up and down at the moment. They're also playing at Old Trafford. I don't know where Everton's goals are going to come from. You know, they scored a scrappy goal last week and then conceded 3 goals in the last 11 minutes of the game to lose to West Ham. So United will squeeze a goal from somewhere. Maybe Rashford, maybe Fernandes, but I don't see Everton getting anything on the scoreboard. So I'm also going for a Man United win, but I think we're going to come out 1-0 to Man United in that game. The next game up for the weekend is Bournemouth versus Sheffield United. Clyde's gone with a 2-1 scoreline to Bournemouth here. Clyde, once again, I agree with the result. I think Sheffield United have been absolutely atrocious. That game they played on Monday against Arsenal was probably one of the worst performances I've seen from a Premier League team. They can't defend, they can't score goals, and in my view, they're pretty much guaranteed to be relegated. So I'm going with a Bournemouth win here as well, but I'm going to go with a 2-0 scoreline. So Clyde, you've gone 2-1. I'm going to go 2-0. Next game up for the weekend, Palace against Luton. Clyde's gone for a 2-2 scoreline here, so he's calling a draw in this game. Palace is interesting. They had the little bit of a bounce back with the new manager. I thought they were a bit unlucky last week. In their game against Spurs. I know they scored first, but then they ended up conceding 3 goals. I think at home they might just have a bit too much for Luton. If this was away at Luton, I might have had a different perspective on the game. But I'm actually going to go for a Palace win here, and I think the win is going to be 2-1. Next game up for the weekend, this is an interesting one. Wolves versus Fulham. Clyde's gone for a 3-2 scoreline to Wolves. Interesting, both teams sort of blowing hot and cold. Wolves with a great win away at Spurs and then being thumped a bit by Newcastle last week. Fulham pulled off a great win last week. I'm going to go for a surprise here. I'm actually going to go for a Fulham away win in this one. Wolves have got Cunha out at the moment. He's their top scorer for the season. I like the looks of the Fulham striker. Willian might be back. Iwobi in the team. You never know what happens with him. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 scoreline to Fulham in this game. So already we have some differentials. So we're definitely going to have a clear outcome at the end of this round. Next game up, Arsenal versus Brentford. Clyde's gone with a 4-1 scoreline. Clyde, I can't fault you in that. Arsenal have been unstoppable in their last few games. If I understand the stats correctly, they've scored 31 goals in their last 6 Premier League games. Last 7 Premier League games, which is averaging more than 4 goals a game. Excuse me. If you remember, they put 6 past Sheffield during midweek. I know it was a poor Sheffield team. So, Clyde, you've gone 4-1 over there. I'm also going to go for an Arsenal win over here, but I think Brentford's defence might be a little bit tighter, and I also think someone like Ivan Toney or Brian Mbeumo might grab a goal here and there. But I think we're going to look at an Arsenal 3-1 scoreline in this game. Next game up is, besides the Liverpool game this weekend against City, I think this next game is probably the second biggest game of the weekend. Villa against Spurs. Now, Villa currently 4th, Spurs currently 5th, 5 points between them. Spurs have got a game in hand, and they're both going for Champions League. Only one of these two teams can finish 4th. And I think the outcome of this game is going to go a long way to defining who ends up 4th this season and grab that last Champions League spot. So, Clyde's gone with a 2-2 scoreline here, sitting on the fence a bit. I can't fault him really. Villa had a good win last week. Spurs had a good win last week. I just think Villa at home are a different proposition, and Spurs away are a little bit iffy. So I'm actually going to go for a Villa win here. I think they're going to extend their lead over Spurs in 4th position. And I'm going to go for a Villa 2, Spurs 1 scoreline in that game. Next game up, Brighton versus Forest. This is also a tricky one. Brighton have been up and down, but the last few games have been absolutely woeful. They lost last weekend. They lost midweek in the Europa League. They were thumped by Roma, whereas Forest conceded that late controversial winner to Liverpool. I say that with a little bit of laughing in the back of my mouth, but yeah, they lost last minute to Liverpool last week. I thought they defended very well. I think they have a pretty decent line going forward in terms of attackers up front between Odoi, Origi and Elanga. So, but I also think Brighton at home might be a bit more of a proposition. So, Clyde, you've gone 3-1 in this game. I actually think this might come out as a draw. I'm looking at a 1-1 scoreline here. I think Brighton's going to grab a goal, and I think Forest's going to grab a goal, but I don't think there's going to be much between them. So that's 1-1 from my side. Next up, West Ham Burnley. If there's one team that's not as bad as Sheffield this season, or not as bad as Sheffield, it's probably Burnley. I think they're the two worst teams in the Premier League this season. Again, a team that can't score and a team that can't defend. Clyde's gone with a 3-0 scoreline here. I'm also going to go with a West Ham win in this game. I think this is a bit of a slam dunk this round. So Clyde's gone 3-0. I don't quite think it's going to be 3 goals. I know Kudus is back for West Ham, and he's quite a threat in front of goal. And I want to have a bit of a different result to you, and I don't think they'll get 4. So I'm going to go West Ham 2, Burnley 0 in this game. Next up is the massive game of the weekend, both from our point of view, being Liverpool supporters, but also in terms of the title race. So Liverpool versus City at Anfield, biggest game of the season so far. Liverpool currently 1 point ahead of City. And I think there's going to be goals in this game. It was a 1-1 draw up at the Etihad. What's key for Liverpool, I think, is they've got a few key players coming back. We saw in midweek Dominic Szoboszlai was back, Mohamed Salah was back, Darwin Núñez is back, scoring goals up front, 2 absolute crackers during the week against Sparta Prague. Clyde's been quite bullish here in terms of the number of goals in the game. He's gone for a Liverpool win, which I can't fault him with. But he's gone for a 3-2 scoreline to Liverpool. This to me is, I keep saying it every week, but this to me is a head versus heart again. You know, earlier in the week, I was saying I would actually be happy with a draw in this game because we get City out of the way. We still stay 1 point ahead of them. But the problem is if Arsenal end up beating Brentford this week, and they're going to go ahead of Liverpool on the table. So, like I said, my head says draw, but in my heart, I believe Liverpool's going to win 2-1. So I'm going to go with that 2-1 scoreline. I think Nunes is going to get on the score sheet, and I think Mohamed Salah is going to get on the score sheet. So I'm just like Clyde. I'm going for a Liverpool win over there. Next game up for the weekend is Chelsea-Newcastle. Chelsea's at home. Both teams that are very erratic. This is Chelsea's first home game back after a month. They've played 3 consecutive away games. In those away games, they got a draw at City and they got a draw at Brentford last week. Newcastle have been up and down. They managed a good win against Wolves last week. They've got Isak back up front as striker. I think he's a class striker. Clyde's gone with a 2-1 scoreline to Chelsea. So Clyde reckons Chelsea's going to take Newcastle at home. Jackson up front for Chelsea. I think he's a bit of a threat, but man, he struggles to put the ball in the back of the net. So I'm thinking this is going to be a draw. I'm going 1-1 in this game. I think Chelsea's going to get their goal, but I do think Newcastle are going to sneak a goal from somewhere. I just think the two teams are just too inconsistent at the moment. I don't think too much is going to separate them in this game. So I'm going to go Chelsea 1, Newcastle 1 in that game. And then the last game of the weekend, it's actually played Wednesday next week. So both Bournemouth and Luton actually have 2 games in game week 28. So those of you that play Fantasy League, you've got a double game week on those 2 teams in terms of players to score some points. But Bournemouth against Luton, Clyde's gone for a 1-1 scoreline here. I think Bournemouth at home are great. And Dom Solanke up front, I think this is a Bournemouth win. So Clyde, you've gone for a draw. I'm going to go Bournemouth 2-0. I think Solanke's going to get on the scorecard, on the score sheet. I think he might even get 2. But I don't see this game being a draw. Luton are great at home, but they're maybe not so great away. And Bournemouth at home are box office. So I'm going Bournemouth 2, Luton 0 in that game. So we have effectively 11 games in game week 28. So a potentially high scoring round again. Like I said, I went down 9-8 last week to Jethro. We have 11 games on offer this week. There's definitely some differentials in terms of the results that I've gone with and Clyde's gone with as well. So this is going to be very interesting. When it comes to the Liverpool City game, that's a point I'd really like to get. And I actually don't mind sharing those points with Clyde for that game because that means Liverpool's going to win. So guys, that's game week 28. A little bit of a twist this week. It's the first time we have a return subscriber. He's got a little bit of revenge on his mind. So Clyde, I've accepted that invite. Let's see what happens. But guys, thanks for joining me today. For those of you that haven't subscribed to the channel or it's your first time watching, please hit the like and subscribe button. It'll really be appreciated. We're on a bit of a journey on this channel. If you want to submit some predictions for next week, there will be an email address in the description of the video. For those of you that don't want to read the description, it'll be armchairredtv@gmail.com. Pop your predictions through. We'll have a little bit of fun for game week 29. But at the moment, I need to keep Clyde in his place, and he's wishing for a little bit of revenge. So thank you very much for today. Look after yourselves. Thank you. Armchair Red out.